Hello and welcome back to the Only Investments podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Suzanne.
And I'm Sarah.
And today's episode is all about trusting your gut and growing your business, your team, your abundance through intention.
Yeah. And what I want to intentionally tell you is, did you hear that the name of our podcast changed? The Sarah and Suzanne Real Estate Investing Podcast to Only Investments Podcast. And we'll tell you a little bit more about that. But guys, guess what? What if the key to growing your business really isn't actually doing more? What about if it's actually trusting yourself more, listening to yourself more, and your team and your gut? There's this whole idea of like work-life balance, and we're going to say that's at the door. That doesn't actually exist. And you got to work for a little while to get what you want, but you got to do it intentionally.
Yeah.
Yes.
Got to set your foundation. That's the most important thing, and build from there. So it's all about having those BHADs, big, hairy, audacious goals. So you got to set these like crazy goals, like financial freedom by age 35 or 40. And then you work backwards from there with intention.
So welcome back. The Only Investment Podcast. And whether you're an investor or an agent, or you're just building a business and you want to hang out with some cool chicks like us, we are glad you're here. And this episode is especially for those people who are in growth mode or feeling stuck or indecisive. We're always getting people out of that space and getting people uncomfortable in a good way.
Yes. So we're going to dive into what it means to grow intentionally and how to refine your instincts, how to learn to listen and trust them, and when to have hard conversations. They don't have to be hard. They just have to be direct with compassion, and why investing in people and tools for your team can multiply your impact. And Sarah and I were literally just talking about this. Like, how are we this busy? Like, what did we do before we had 3 teammates? Like, what would we be doing right now? How insane would our lives be? And what we realized is like, we wouldn't be any busier because we wouldn't have had the capacity to have this much business, this much great stuff going on in our business without the teammates. So it's like, we also realized today, the more we give, the more we get in return. And so it's having that abundance mindset, giving this sense of abundance and joy of giving to other people. And we'll talk about what that means in terms of our team, and lifting other people up and empowering them to be leaders and build their own businesses and set and achieve their own big, hairy, audacious goals too, and being supportive of.
Yeah. So we have lots of real life examples of this.
Never a dull moment. Never a dull moment.
Sure. But as usual, guys, we are going to follow the format that we normally follow, because if you're here for more reasons to hear us talk about instant karma, we also want to update you on the status of our market in real estate, because that's what we do. And here it is July 2025, the very last day of July 2025 here in Central Oregon. And if you look at the statistics, this is usually when our market peaks.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, this is usually when our market peaks in terms of just like things like number of sales, sales price. And guys, it's downhill from here. Our market's been a little bit behind this year in general.
Like 1 month behind, meaning like the spike in prices took an extra month. So instead of March, it was April. And what was really interesting is normally we would expect July to be the peak. So we'll see what happened. June actually went down. So we'll see what happened in July, because what happened in June was fewer $1 million homes sold during that time. So it'll be really interesting. We're on the last day of July as we're recording this. So we'll have numbers for you in our market stats in probably the next 8 to 10 days and see what happens. But yes, to Sarah's point, like this should be the peak. Although last year was an exception too. October was it the highest price we had all year last year.
Yeah, before it went back up again. But
yeah, so we'll see what happens. What we will say is it's not predictable, and the market is very fickle right now. It's so funny. People ask us like, what's going on? And it's like, anything that's a deal, either it comes on the market at a really good price or a seller takes a significant price drop, people are all over it. Our phones are ringing. We've got multiple people wanting to offer on the same property. We're seeing multiple offers on those competitively priced properties where you've got a motivated seller or someone who actually listens to their realtor on how to price their
Mhm.
home. Anything where the seller's like, I'm not in a hurry, I don't want to leave any money on the table. Those are the ones that are sitting. And we have a listing where there were showings there. It was like 555,000. We priced it really well. And one of the first agents that showed it was like, yeah, our clients are seeing this as one out of the 16 that they're touring in a day and a half. So like they had tons to choose from in those price points. And so competition for those buyers is really fierce between 500 and probably 700 right now.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I was so convinced that this house was going to sell in the first weekend it was on the market. We have the cutest, most perfect sellers in terms of just like their house is perfect, their organization's perfect. I didn't have to do anything really to help them get ready for listing photos. We priced it at the price that's like the quick sale price. We almost never have sellers that say yes to that price, but they're motivated. They've got another house they want to move into. And it took 11 days to get an acceptable offer on that house. And I was just surprised. It was one of the situations where I was pretty darn convinced, but still, got their house under contract in less days on the market than average right now. So they're more than thrilled. But that's really the reality of what we're dealing with. It's a perfectly marketed and priced home with perfect sellers. And it's still taking longer than a lot of us are used to listing. So in addition to that, I mean, really the majority of our hustling right now has to do with the STR buyers out there. There are so many W-2 earners that are finally got the memo about, bonus depreciation, and it's back at 100% here in the 2025 tax year. And we've got people looking for those turnkey, easy to adopt short-term rentals. So like fully furnished, no updates needed, just like hand me the keys and how to do this. And I want to collect my bonus depreciation check at the end of the next tax year kind of people. So there's a lot of those out there. So if you're listening and you've got a turnkey STR to sell, give us a call because we probably have a buyer for you.
100%. And just to break it down for someone that maybe is new to our podcast or doesn't understand some of the terms that we just talked about, STR stands for short-term rental. You can think of that as a vacation rental, an Airbnb, a VRBO, whatever. As long as it's rented less than 7 days, at least once in the calendar year, is considered a short-term rental. So what does bonus depreciation mean? Bonus depreciation is one result of the big, beautiful, or otherwise bill. And essentially it helps W-2 earners offset their active income with losses, paper losses, depreciation losses on short-term rentals. So there's a lot to this. It's really helpful to have an amazing tax strategist that will like break it down for you. But essentially, if you are a W-2 earner and you have a high tax bill, buying a short-term rental and claiming bonus depreciation is going to help you offset some or potentially all of your tax burden in 1 year. It's pretty magical.
Yeah.
Legally, like pay zero taxes legally. So that's what everyone is calling us about. We have one client that we helped find like the coolest deal. And now we have 3 of his colleagues that have called us and asked for the exact same thing. Like, just find me what you found for him. So it's super awesome and really rewarding to get those referrals and have that vote of confidence from a client.
Yeah.
It's pretty fun.
We could probably do a whole episode on what that is and, how to find it, how to use it. But if you're at all interested or in the market for it, just give us a call and we'll make the right connects for you and let you know what that looks like here in Central Oregon. Aside from that, we're busy. I thought July was going to be our biggest month of the year, but I think August might be shaping up to be our biggest month of the year, which I'm okay with that, that increasing. That's okay. So yeah, we had 6 closings in July. We had 3 in one day.
Yeah, that was fun.
Actually, that was fun. And we've got 8 on the books for August to close. So we are working a lot, but having a lot of fun doing it as usual. And yeah, I mean, all of a sudden it was buyers, but our listings are slowly starting to go under contract as well. So things are moving,
especially creative deals. And that's where, we're seeing a lot of buyer interest and activity. We're having more and more people show up to our weekly power hours here at our office that we host during the summer months, where we talk about seller financing, subject to financing, ways to get around historically relatively high rates that we're experiencing now to help keep those payments reasonable and get people into homes or investment properties that make sense for them. So we're sending out a lot of letters of intent for some folks, just putting out, it's like a pre-offer basically to get something written in front of the seller so they can consider terms before we spend the time to write up a formal offer.
And you might wonder, like, why would we send a letter of intent as opposed to a formal offer? And that's because in these cases, we're making an offer suggestion to a seller that they don't actually necessarily think that they're offering yet. And in this case, it's seller carry financing. They're not advertising that they would consider this, but we're doing this like back end sleuthing for essentially tired landlords, right? People that own their properties for a long time, either owe close to nothing or nothing on it, or they bought it in cash. So people that could do a pretty simple straight seller carry deal, and explaining to a seller and educating a seller on what seller carry financing is a lot easier than educating them on what, and convincing them to do a subject to offer. So we start with baby steps.
Yep.
And it's a lot of education, but we show sellers or potential sellers like the benefits of being the bank. And that's just one of the great things
Earning
that we do.
interest. Yeah, I mean, we just presented an offer to some sellers yesterday that came over. It was these sellers actually were listing the property with seller financing, and even at 5% over 5 years, these folks stood to make an extra like $85,000 in interest that would otherwise go to some bank. Why not collect that yourself?
It seems like a no-brainer to me, as long as you don't aren't in a desperate position that you need the money, and even if you are in a desperate position, we come up with solutions too. So long story short, we are creative. We are the creative financing queens, and it can get complicated. But yeah, you just got to have an open mind, whether you're a buyer or a seller. So that's the state of our market and the state of our lives. What's next?
Yeah. Well, now let's get into the touchy-feely, emotionally stuff, whatever, because we did say at the beginning, the topic of this week's podcast is about trusting your gut, having those direct conversations, and growing with intention. And it's important, the main thing we want to talk about is when you have a sense about something, listen. That's what is really called your intuition. And I know not everyone wants to call it that. Trust your gut, whatever. It's important to start to understand what those things are so you can recognize when you're getting those signals, because ultimately everything is energy, and we're sending it out and we're receiving it all the time, right? Whether we're aware of it or not. If we're not aware of it, it doesn't matter. We're still sending and receiving. So that is the important part, is to recognize that and then start listening to it, because there's a lot of guidance in that energy that we can then interpret and use in our lives to help us avoid situations or get into the right ones.
Absolutely. And I think tracking that intuition and tracking that energy and those feelings, and then making concrete associations with those feelings and experiences too, right? That show you oh, I had this feeling then, and this happened after, right? And so was I anticipating that? Was I not? And saying, oh, last time I had this feeling, this happened, right? And as opposed to just ignoring those things and plugging through them and then having to pick up the pieces later, So it's what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same
thing and expecting different results.
Right. So so we trust our gut and we trust our intuition. And I think we are pretty in tune to these things, and especially with each other. And this is part of having a partnership, is recognizing each other's states and, energy, and having conversations about it. And this week we've gotten to have a few fun conversations around these things. And they, there's lots of different ways to approach conversations like this. And we've learned in the past, we've approached conversations like this, coming to them with more of a rigid business, defensive, offensive mindset, with our own interests and goals in mind, really, is I think how we've approached these conversations
being
in the past.
Overly prepared, instead of, I think how we're now approaching it is coming in with curiosity and questions, and explaining what we're feeling, sensing, perceiving, and then asking for feedback. I think that has been really helpful just in shifting hard conversations to be less hard and more compassionate and open.
Definitely. And I think there's also like a skill set that we've developed too, determining like when to lean into things more, right? As opposed to like pull away from them. And then also the times when it's appropriate to walk away. And, I think we've had an example of both of these things happen to us the past couple weeks.
So one example of leaning in, like we were just talking about, is when you get an email that's this long and it seems kind of emotionally charged and it gives you like kind of that like tight chest feeling. We got one of those emails last week and it was really unexpected from I would just say like a teammate, an advisor, basically, a professional advisor that we pay for services. Thank you. I mean, all the people that are around us, we consider teammates, but it's not someone that's like on our actual real estate team. Yes. Trusted advisor. And yeah, this email came through and it was so funny because the first thing that happened was like, we were in a meeting and Sarah's like in the back madly typing, because that's how Sarah processes is through writing. And so she sent me the draft of her response to this long email. And I was like, cool. Okay. Actually, what I'm going to do is make a phone call. And this is something that I learned back in my corporate days is like, once you get past like this long of an email, a phone call is so much better because so many things can be misinterpreted. And what I learned from that phone call with this advisor was he misinterpreted my email to him and found it offensive, which like was so interesting to me because I was like, oh, I had no idea that it could come off that way. And then I told him that his email to us came off with a very, I don't know, like argumentative tone, kind of like I'm taking this back, you don't get this anymore kind of tone. And he was like, oh, wow, I was trying to write it without a tone to it, like I'm trying to make it really neutral. I was like, yeah, it wasn't. It was so not. Anyways, we had a great meeting. Actually, we ended up doing a face-to-face Google Meet and it was so much better even than a phone call. We were able to see each other's expressions and like just feel the sincerity of what we're both trying to accomplish and come to a very wonderful outcome, which was just like, look, we're all working towards the same goal here. We definitely misinterpreted things. We wrote things in a way that we didn't realize would come off a different way when, from a different perspective. And ultimately, like we are aligned and lockstep. We're moving forward and really excited about what this hard conversation brought up. It actually spurred this partner to look into new options and services that their team can offer that is even better than what they had. So it was a really good outcome of a difficult conversation that kind of lasted over about 4 or 5 days just because of weekends and timing and stuff. So overall, the outcome was really good. And it was really, what was so important was just like stopping, reflecting, getting, doing our mental processing without hitting the send button right away. And then just having that face-to-face or phone call conversation to just clarify what we both meant, what we're both working for, and how we can be better partners and communicators in the future.
Yeah. And the result of this is like true emotional connection, which has strengthened our relationship even more than it was. And like, it's come full circle to this point where now we're all just back on the same page, really excited to lift each other up and continue to support each other's businesses and growth because like we actually saw each other and we got through a hard conversation together. And so I don't know, I just think it's just so important to stop and have those experiences when it feels like it's going over the deep end. And also, we made the conscious decision to want to continue a relationship with this person. Like we're like, whoa, wait a minute, this isn't what we expected and how we want this to go. And we put it back in line with how we wanted it to go. So
that was the intuition piece, was just both of us were like, whoa, this response seems really out of character. Yeah. Like, let's be curious and ask what's going on, what's underlying this. And that's really what helped us unlock an even more rewarding and close partnership with this advisor. So we're excited.
Yeah, totally.
Moving forward.
Absolutely.
Good things can come from hard conversations, my friends.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, in all of these conversations and relationships, like we can deduce that it's better to time your growth, right? Rather than force it. And also, we recognize in this conversation with this advisor of ours that I think we helped him recognize that he's gotten certain strengths, and also just like we're a mirror, right? Like we're a reflection for other people and vice versa. And like through this conversation, I think we helped him realize places that he has to grow. And that's what we're always looking for too. It's just like, where do we have the opportunity to grow, and where can we reflect back to other people where they have the opportunity to grow as well? And then like grow together, right?
Yes.
So
yeah. And that's one of the fun things that we're doing on our team. You've been following along, we've been intentionally growing our team, and it's been a really fun exercise just to learn from other people, ask questions, be curious, figure out what works for us, come up with our own formula, template, and process. And one thing that we have just decided is that we are going to be leveling up our current transaction coordinator so that he's empowered to recruit, interview, hire, and train his own assistant, which is going to be amazing. And I think it's like pretty mind-blowing for him, because I don't think that he expected something like that, especially what are we, like 4 months into working with him. I think it gives him a feeling of leadership, of responsibility, of relief too, because he works hard for us, like 40 hours a week. And, by the end of the week, like we're all pretty tired, he gets to sign up for 2 full days and not have to deal with anything. But that's also what we're going to be addressing, is making sure that he's got some overlap coverage, that we have more coverage on our team for more hours, and the times that we don't really get to be off. So super exciting, and it was really fun to just empower him with the idea of that first, and then get him up and running on recruiting and starting to train someone to help him and make his job easier and share the wealth and abundance more broadly within our team.
Yeah. And talking about sharing, the reason why RTC needs more help is because like we said, we're growing our team, and we've officially brought on our first team member. And part of being our team, one of the greatest incentives of being part of our team is like we share all of our back-end systems with you. We're opening up our playbook. So we're sharing what we've built together for years and years. Because as a real estate agent, like you shouldn't have to reinvent the wheel. Like all you should have to do is just go sell and be a people person, and like it's, as an entrepreneur, like you have to build your own business and back end. And like we know that, we've done that, and we're confident with the systems we built. So not only are we sharing our back end, but the other really valuable thing that we're sharing is our clients. Like we are giving away business, and that's one of the hardest things for new people who in this industry to do, is like generate business, generate leads, be the magnet. And it's like, we were just reminded today what instant karma looks like. We are, it feels so good to give away to this person, and we do it without the thought in mind of like that energy exchange. But like when you do that, like it's just so amazing how the universe rewards you right away back at you with more good. Like we just have more business coming in every single day that's even better.
Yeah.
And it just feels, I don't know, it just feels so aligned as far as just like the give and receive of all the things. So,
and just an example, like to clarify what Sarah's alluding to, we gave away a client. So like silver platter, here you go. And within 24 hours, we got 2 new clients that came to us. That's the give get. And we're not giving with the expectation of that always being the case, but that's just how the universe works. When you feel abundant, you get more abundance. That's just like the basics.
Yep. It's pretty good stuff. So
yeah. So now we're like doing some other fun things, because all the team building is about helping us do different things to lift up our business, to create different streams of income, to help more people, and to serve, right? So our podcast is one way where we serve. We're sharing our experience, what we've learned, the good, bad, ugly, fun, cry, you've seen it all so far. And so by having more teammates, we can spend more time on podcasting. So Sarah, I mean, what did we do this week?
You wouldn't know right now because you're still looking at us through the same lens from one of our computers right now.
Or listening to us without any mics on.
Right. One of our dear friends and colleagues who we host a meetup here with him every week, who also does his own podcast, handed us a list of all the things that he thought we needed to improve our systems and our equipment for podcasting. And we just trusted him and went all in. So we're in the process of setting up a new camera, and we'll have fancy mics and good lighting, and our content is just going to get even better. And it's fine. It's fine. It's finally time to do this. And I know I was reflecting because I know we talk about like not jumping into like expensive things and, you know, all of that, but like this is different than, you know, than paying for something that's like a service-based thing. You know, this is actually like a concrete piece of equipment that, you know, we'll put to use.
For sure.
But we'll let you know if we don't.
And if not, we'll sell it to you for real cheap.
Yeah. So it's all good. It's all good. But we're excited to keep improving and keep leveling up for you guys. On to the section of our podcast that we call our PSA section. We like to give our clients a little bit of information from our week that we think that they should consider, and also our fellow real estate agents and, you know, real estate colleagues out there. It's hustle season, no doubt. Every day is a different day, like, especially if you're a lady, you know, we go through ups and downs throughout the month. You know, we lead with our hearts and our ovaries sometimes. And, you know, some days you just get to the office and you're looking outside and it's all sunny, and you just say, I think we just need to call it quits for today and go have some fun. And like, listen, the problems are going to be there tomorrow. The fires are still going to be there tomorrow. And there's so much value in just like stepping outside the office and, you know, going to have that facial, going to, you know, spend time in the backyard with your kids, throwing the baseball back and forth, like hopping in the river on a tube and just lazily floating down the river. Because life is short, time is short, summers are short, hot weather's short. Like, you know, I didn't go to my Orange Theory class, my workout class this morning because A, I wanted to not have to do the 200-meter benchmark, and B, it was like the perfect trail running weather here this morning. It was like a little bit warm, a little bit humid, but like drizzly rain. And I was like, I'm gonna forfeit the $12 that they're gonna charge me, and I'm gonna go for a trail run instead. I don't care. You know, it's just like make the decisions that make you happy in that moment, that serve you, like the improvement of your energy, mental and physical. That's what I have to say. Like, you don't like, as much as I love the calendar, and actually I was thinking about this morning, like as much as I love the accountability of my calendar and the fact that my Orange Theory class is on there at 7:10 a.m., whatever, 3 days a week, like sometimes I like to switch it up, and that feels good too. And you know what? I can do that. I'm in charge.
Totally. And what that looked like for me. So Sarah was just like, yeah, I don't really feel like working today. And I was like, sweet, go for it. And for me, that meant like having an impromptu little happy hour here in our beautiful office, like on our balcony that overlooks the river and the concert venue where Old Dominion was playing, inviting some friends over and just having like a little fun happy hour and sharing the wealth and the love and time together, because ultimately that is what is most important. And the moral of that story is like, as we bring our own energy up, we translate that into what we bring to our clients and our team and our business and everyone around us. So it's important to take that time off and do things that fill your cup. So yeah, super important, because it also fuels that abundance mindset too, of like, I deserve to take some time off. We hustle every single day. Moving on to our client PSA. This week is really all about deadlines. So we have seen a couple things happening with deadlines. Nothing super out of the ordinary, but one thing is a couple of delayed closings. So we've had buyers that have had a few things going on, right? And usually it's lender related, honestly. You know, lenders have to check a lot of boxes. They're doing underwriting. They're just making sure everything's kosher, right? So we never go back to 2008 and never, you know, have that disaster again, right? So all good in the grand scheme of things. But what happens when closing deadlines get pushed out? Well, sellers start to feel real antsy, and they start making up stories in their heads about what's happening and why. And that's where our premise, assume positive intent, is so important. And we educate a lot of our industry partners about that. And we also educate our clients about assuming positive intent and not creating these stories based on emotion and assumption and the worst case scenario.
Creating a problem when there isn't a problem.
Exactly. Yes. So things just happen. Some things are out of our control when we're in these transactions because there's so many parties to the transaction. There's the realtor, the seller, the buyer, the lender, the title and escrow company, probably more. So we're all depending on each other, and we all have to trust each other and communicate and have those hard conversations that hopefully are less hard when we can just back up, assume everyone's doing the right thing, and trust that things are all going to work out. It just may be a few days later. On another topic of deadlines, they're also really important. So as we're recording this, we're about 2 hours and 20 minutes away from the end of an inspection deadline on one of the properties that we're listing. And what that means is if we don't receive a repair addendum or a request to extend that inspection period, that means that the buyers of our seller's property are accepting that property in as-is condition, meaning that our sellers don't have to agree to any repairs. They don't have to agree to any credits. Like these buyers, the default in the Oregon contract is that unless you send a repair addendum or an extension request by the end of the inspection period, the buyers take it as is. So we will let you know on our next recording what happened with this one, because we're like kind of just sitting here like, and it's exciting and nerve-wracking and
it's
interesting.
It's a strange place to be in, just because again, like we're protecting the seller, but like if this was our buyer, we would have already had like a termination agreement ready to go, like in preparation of maybe not coming to terms. Like it's wild stuff out there. It can be, and like these dates are pretty important because this money's on the line, thousands of dollars of earnest money's on the line for that buyer, and like we're protecting the seller. So it's like we're just staying silent right now and letting them maybe do their job. We'll find out.
And we've told our sellers like no news is good news. So
for now,
we'll see what happens. So that is our client PSA. Assume positive intent and know that sometimes no news truly is good news.
Totally. All right. We sometimes do this section, we sometimes don't, but I think it's worth sharing a little bit more about good old St. Louis with you, only because if you are an agent out there listening who calling for sale by owners on your like list of things that you do for getting new seller leads. Yeah. Like this, I just hired a realtor. And like
that called you as a FSBO?
Called me as a,
it works.
And it worked. But let me tell you about why I think it worked, because I think it had to do with his cadence. I think it had to do with his like detachment from the situation. I think it had to do with how direct and short he kept conversations. So this is how it went down. I got a phone call. I didn't pick up because I don't pick up St. Louis phone numbers. I let people leave messages. And he left a message. Hey, Sarah, saw your listing on Alaska. Just wanted to have a chat about it. Just real brief, quick, like didn't give any more information. If you've ever listed a for sale by owner yourself, you know that you have to wade through the realtors who are calling you to get your listing. And you also have to, these days, wade through, or at least with these types of properties, wade through people who want to purchase your property as like a subject to or some sort of creative financing deal.
Wholesalers.
Wholesalers. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Exactly. So it's like you learn to wade through that and you get through that. Anyways, great. Had quick conversation with him, told him what's going on, texted, left me the information. He called me like 4 days later, I would say, and he just like asked me how it's going. Basically, I just said like, listen, like I like the way you communicate, like I'll tell you what I want, what I need. I'm going to follow up with a couple people that I have leads on. If I don't have any offers by X date, then you can list it, and I just decided like, I'm too busy, I'm too busy to deal with this. This is why people hire professionals. This is why people have a team. And this wouldn't work if he communicated, in a different way, if he was like long-winded with me, like, so I think just really under like meeting people, how they communicate, understanding how, meeting people where they are, like mirroring other people's types of communication in these situations, and then just like make it quick, find out what our goals are, and
show the value.
Exactly, show the value you bring. So like I told him what I wanted, he was able to follow up and do what I wanted, and I don't know, it's working. So I think there's some value in calling people for FSBOs, but it's definitely it's gotta hit the right timing, I think. So what else, Suzanne? I'm pretty excited about some new things that we got.
So Primo Private Money Academy is up and running full speed. We have brought on a couple of new clients, and one reached out to us 2 days ago and was like, hey, I've got $95,000 that I want to put to work for the next 8 to 10 weeks because the project I was going to be investing in is delayed. So help me. find a place for this money, and I want to make sure you get some money for helping me.
But that's
which
not
is
all she
awesome.
said. Listen, this is what's for you. Is she said, I'm too busy to learn. I don't really want to learn to do it myself. And I trust you to. And I just want you to bet the deal, find the deal, and find a place to place it for me and take your.
Which is great. Like, we can do this all day long. So if you're listening and you're in the same boat, hit us up. You know where to find us, and we'll definitely help you put your money to work for whatever amount of time you want. So the cool thing was, we knew someone to reach out to for some of these transactional deals. Transactional deal is essentially anything from a few hours of having your money out up to like maybe 3 months. So that's pretty short. And this person had, 8 to 10 weeks. So we found her a deal where she's going to put not even all of her money, $55,000, wire it to escrow. If the deal closes, she will make $800 in like 4 days. We will make $400 for making the connect. And the person who we connected her to also makes money on the deal. So like, this is the beauty of the velocity of money, is like everyone, 3 people are winning just for putting this little deal together, $55,000. And the buyer and the seller of this transaction are both winning as well. So it's, and like the lender wins and the escrow company wins and the realtors on both sides. Like, everybody is winning in this transaction because we helped make a connection. And that is what's so powerful about private money lending, is like, we're helping the economy. Like, we're putting more money in the economy for so many different players and like helping everyone achieve their goals. What were we gonna say?
Yeah, well, and it's an economy that like we're creating too. It's like a like economy, and it's like it feels good to keep our money in the family. And like, and this is where we keep coming back to, is like, well, even with, our partners who we had some hard conversations with this week, like maybe we're going to end up paying them a little bit more than we might pay somebody else. But like, it feels good to have that relationship and someone that is truly still committed to like lifting up in the meantime. And like, that's what we're drawing from. That's what we're creating. That's what we're growing. And that's who the people, like, if you get to know, like, and trust us, like, you could be part of it too, and vice versa,
Yes. And I was at a real estate conference, real estate investing mastermind, I should say, a couple of weeks ago. And the opening line of the conference is, you get paid in direct accordance to the value you bring the market. So we brought her a lot of value, to the point that like, none of our money is on the line, but we're going to get basically half of the return of what she's getting for putting her money on the line, because we connected her. Because who doesn't want to earn $200 a day for just having your money out there and getting it back, right? Like, that's a no-brainer. So many more examples of this. And we have lots of lending opportunities, whether they're these quick in and out transactional deals, whether they're 6-month rehab, refi or flip kind of properties, and like everything in between. So it's been really fun to see Primo grow and evolve, and also see how our role is also evolving as being these connectors and finding different kinds of deals to help people get their money working for them, so they don't have to work as hard themselves, and they can focus on other things like we are, like podcasting, Yeah. We're realtors, but we're also podcasters, which is so fun.
So good. So we hope you got some actionable takeaways out of our episode this week. And I think, to recap, some things that we can say are, if it doesn't feel good, like, don't ignore it. Our feelings are there for a reason, and find people to like talk that out with.
And I think it's really about getting curious and asking questions. Like, when we feel that feeling, whatever it is, like tightness in your chest, or kind of that like sinking feeling in your stomach, start asking yourself questions instead of letting your mind run away with ideas. And that's the same thing we were talking about with, people can start telling themselves stories that have no basis in reality, just because of assumptions and like emotion and things. So it's much better to step back and ask questions, become curious with yourself, with others, situations, and you can learn a lot more by asking questions. Another thing I've learned from my real estate investing mastermind is, she who asks the most questions controls the conversation, which I think goes against the conventional wisdom of the person who's talking controls the conversation. Absolutely not. As you ask questions, you are guiding the conversation. And that is the true secret of good conversations, sales, all the things.
Yeah, but it's so important to have that sounding board that other person to like have that conversation with, right? Because if you only have that conversation with yourself, I think you can go down a pretty deep rabbit hole, right? But
Yeah. And that's why having a team is so important.
people that you trust.
Yes.
Yeah, people that you trust.
Yes. Okay. Another actionable takeaway from this week is getting to know goals of your teammates. And this was a really funny one. I should have talked about it earlier, but we were on a call with our transaction coordinator and asking him how his week was going. And he was like, oh, you guys, I've been getting my 10,000 steps in. I'm really proud of myself, but I haven't been losing any weight. And, we got curious. Well, what's your goal? What do you want to lose weight? No, I just want to be healthy. And I hate plank. And I was like, okay, well, let's do 15 push-ups. So we did 15 push-ups on that call. So we're all on video calls, and he's down doing his 15 push-ups. We're in our office doing ours. And it was really fun. We got him to crack a smile because he's kind of a serious dude. Just gets in, gets his work done, and, he's got his schedule, right? But it was so fun because he was like really excited. And like by doing these push-ups, I know for sure, like it's going to help him get to his goal because he's building muscle, right? And this is like, we integrate healthy living and exercise and weight training and all these things into our lives because we see these things as investments, right? Like the more weight you lift, the more muscle you build, the more calories you burn while you're sitting here recording a podcast. So really fun and something that I think we'll keep going because it's like rewarding and exciting and it just helps us connect on a more personal level.
Yeah.
So that was a long takeaway.
And laugh a little bit, which is always our goal. Yeah. So thank you so much for tuning in and listening. We have so much fun, connecting with each other and the opportunity to connect with you on the Only Investments podcast.
And that's OWNLY, like owning something, that's like right. Investments.
And we're the only people you should ever need to talk to when it comes to doing real estate too. So that's another reason.
Well, thank you all for joining us. We hope you got value out of this. If you did, please hit that like button, subscribe, make sure you don't miss another episode. And we will be back at you again with lots of tips, insights, fun stories, and experiences to share to help you create more freedom in your life through passive income from real estate investments or private money lending or building your real estate team or podcasting. Who knows? We'll see you next time.